Quite what the answer is and what the right system of regulation is, I'm not sure, but I'm sure there should be, and there's got to be.
The U.S. is a tough one because, we have the notion of the First Amendment.
You are a discerning viewer of important information. You know that you have to stay awake in order to be able to separate the wheat from the chaff when it comes from truth, the misinformation from the malinformation and the disinformation. You may remember former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair as one of the largest conveyors of untruths, deceit and deception in recent history when he claimed that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, leading to the deaths of 1 million Iraqi children and I think 50,000 US service personnel. But I'm afraid I don't have earrings on, so I'm not getting updated about the exact number of American service personnel that lost their lives in the Iraq war and subsequent conflicts. But certainly death is always a part of war. Tony Blair now, of course, has turned the spotlight of his attention and the manacles of his power to the subject of misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. How extraordinary that this man who sold us all into war on a lie now believes that he ought be able to advocate for further control of the way that we communicate with one another, perhaps our last great chance of avoiding their centralized power.
The question of jurisdiction as well. The server will be in one country, the person writing the message will be in another country. We've arguably seen this a little bit with the riots recently. But do you foresee a point in the not too distant future where other countries are going to have to follow Brazil's lead and take actual action against platform owners for the dissemination of disinformation?
Gotta follow Brazil's lead. Brazil's the leaders in this. Good old Brazil clamping down on X and Rumble and shutting down the potential for people to communicate openly and freely because, of course, people are bad. People are terrible. People need the state to control them, and not just a nation state with a political party that they voted for. No, a global state with institutions and organisations that they didn't vote for but do fund and will never be able to vote for. Let us get control. Isn't it extraordinary that the WHO treaty that's being impeded as a result of the resistance that we are all intuitively offering includes strong measures of censorship within it? Of course, that's to help you and to protect you, just in case people share information that might hurt you. Maybe they won't say the exact right thing during a pandemic. Well, imagine if someone said, well, you might want to be careful with these medications that are being, in some cases, mandated, for example, to government workers in your country or military personnel in your country, because it's possible they might cause myocarditis and other conditions. It's possible even that it's not necessary or even wise to deploy these medications when it comes to children in particular. Or maybe people might say that hydroxychloroquine, yes, or ivermectin might be suitable replacements. Maybe there are all sorts of arguments that we could discuss together, but misinformation and malinformation are so bad. Well, imagine if we found out that the 6 feet social distancing was arbitrary, or that lockdowns will break the back of medium-sized businesses, that Kamala Harris is going to give you a $20,000 loan to reboot, or Keir Starmer, who's currently in the business of slashing winter fuel aid for the elderly, will surely provide some sort of leg up for small businesses so that we can at least afford funerals for the many old people that will surely die. There's no doubt about it. The establishment is your friend. Should we, could we, dare we follow Brazil's lead and ban free speech?
Well, I certainly see a position where the world's going to have to come together and agree some rules around social media platforms.
We've got to come together and agree similar rules, and I would like to help you. Tony Blair, get your help off of me.
And I think that's quite what the answer is and what the right system of regulation is, I'm not sure, but I'm sure there should be, and there's got to be, because it's not just, how people can provoke, hostility and hatred, but I think...
He's talking about riots in the United Kingdom, and riots and violence are always wrong. So if you were comparing two sets of violence, riots and violence in the UK against the death of 1 million Iraqi children, I suppose you'd have to say that the people whose misinformation led to the death of 1 million Iraqi children will be like, what? maybe 1,000,000 times worse, 1,000,000 times worse, almost inconceivably worse, almost beyond the scale of moral reckoning, almost beyond our understanding, almost a scope and scale of evil that will require true resistance to oppose it. But there's no point talking about that stuff because you could be accused of spreading misinformation.
And I don't know what the answer to this is. And I'm just saying that. I don't.
We can't carry on as we are.
But we can't carry on as we are.
Can't carry on as we are, can we, Tony? Do something for us, Tony. Why don't you play the guitar? Why don't you head a football? Why don't you put a lawyer in charge of our country? Find a way to use your authoritarian control in case there's any more civil unrest or disobedience that could possibly interrupt all of these global wars that we're getting on with. How can we possibly continue with our profitable massacres if people are speaking freely?
And I think the impact on young people particularly.
Yeah, the young people. What about them 1,000,000 young people? And just to specify what I mean by young people, children in Iraq who died as a result of your lies. Misinformation?
When they got access to mobile phones very young, and they're reading a whole lot of stuff and receiving a whole lot of stuff that I think is really messing with their minds in a big way. And as I say, I'm not sure what the answer to it is, but I'm sure we need to find one.
You start on these globalists and you'll find out how the deal operates. So would you believe that Bill Gates is calling for digital ID systems and behaviours to combat misinformation? Help us, Bill. Won't you please, Bill, help us?
Every country's struggling to find that boundary. The U.S. is a tough one because, we have the notion of the First Amendment. And so what are the exceptions, like yelling fire in a theater,
Yeah, that wouldn't be good, would it? Yelling fire in a theater or yelling vaccine in the middle of a pandemic when it's actually an mRNA that doesn't prevent you from getting or spreading the disease. I yelled that pretty hard, though. Why don't you, or sometimes if you're on a jet on the way to an island, yelling, "Oh my God, this is morally reprehensible! Jeffrey, what are we doing, Jeffrey? What are we doing, Jeffrey?"
We can't continue to bring you this beautiful content without the support of our partners. Airports and planes are heavy EMF exposure zones due to the volume of people with individual devices and Wi-Fi within confined spaces. I think that sometimes, like all of them phones, everyone's staring at their devices. It's important to protect yourself if you're undertaking such travel from EMF. Imagine sitting on a commercial flight, every single person there smothered in Wi-Fi, Bluetooth earbuds, all that stuff. You might as well be in a fuselage made of electromagnetic energy. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention classifies airline crew members as radiation workers precisely because of this fact. AirsTech, as you know, probably, are an official partner of the UFC. They're the only scientifically validated EMF protection solution. Hang that little thing around your neck. It sups up those sweet little problems. AirTech uses EMF modulation technology that is trusted and used around the world. Go to airstech.com/pages/Russell-brand. Use code Russell30 for 30% off. That's code Russell30 for 30% off. Give yourself the advantages that these devices represent. Thank you.
And because you're anonymous online, it can be worse. I do think over time, with things like deep fakes, most of the time you're online, you're going to want to be in an environment where the people are truly identified. That is, they're connected to a real world identity that you trust instead of just people saying whatever they want. And so the idea of provenance, who sent me this email, was that really them? We're going to have systems and behaviors that we're more aware of. Okay, who says that? Who created this?
You can't have people saying what they want. That would be, what did they used to call that? Free speech. Yeah, that was the term. Well, thanks, Bill. Thanks for the protection. Appreciate it. Given that you came up with Windows, you're pretty difficult to see through and you're pretty poor on the subject of transparency. You better believe that me and Bill Gates and George Soros and the crew will come up with some way, some crisis, some way to legitimize further control so you can sit passively back in your bed and consume the crap that we sell from our vile mouths, slithering off of our forked tongues into your ears like poison. Man, I'm gonna get me some of them earrings so that I can just broadcast some sort of shash white noise distraction to feed out the lies and deception that they satanically pour into us. Hey, but that's just what I think, guys. You know, I'm on the fence on this one. Let me know what you think in the comments and the chat. Do you believe that the globalists have your best interests at heart? Do you believe that we should follow Brazil's lead and ban Rumble and ban X and ban any way for people to openly communicate? Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. Remember, like and subscribe. If you're watching us on Rumble right now, subscribe, like, let's get some likes going. Let's have some conversation. If you're an awakened wonder, commune with one another, create community. That's the thing they fear most, is us coming together against them. More important than that, though, if you can, for heaven's sake, please stay free. Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to see more uncensored content where free speech can flourish, join our live stream. Click the link right here to watch the next video if you want to, or become a member of a growing movement. Download the Rumble app and you'll be informed every time we make a new piece of content. Stay free.